Please give a warm welcome again to Jules Henningburg.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, what's up, guys? Just first and foremost, this has been awesome being here with you guys. I did a clinic yesterday. A lot of young players out there, some older guys as well. Really special for me, being a guy that grew up in New Jersey. I haven't been to Minnesota a ton. We've come here for PLL games, which has been an awesome experience. But for me to see where lacrosse is in a state like Minnesota, where I know, and talking to you guys, hockey is the kind of the priority. To see the amount of kids that came out yesterday, and then now to see the Captain's Cup, being able to see some of you guys out here who are phenomenal talents. Honestly, a lot of you guys, I believe, doesn't matter where you play. I think you guys are some really solid guys out here, which is great to see for the game. And, you know, kudos to you guys for putting in the work and being ambassadors on your own level and keeping pushing Minnesota lacrosse forward. It's really exciting. Again, I've been playing this game for a long time. And when I was growing up, you know, there wasn't any PLL. There was MLL, but I didn't get to watch it on TV. So for me to see where Minnesota is and knowing that the game's continuing to grow, it just speaks volumes of the work that you guys are doing, that Homegrown is doing, and that where lacrosse is going, right, as a whole. So really excited about that and excited to see what the rest of the day holds for that. For me, it started at a very young age, right, when I look back to rec, when I was playing, that I had a passion, right? I had passion, and I think that people saw that I had passion, and they wanted to empower that passion, and they believed, hey, you know, we see something in this kid, he has passion. And when people kind of empowered me, seeing that I had that passion, I started to feel a sense of responsibility, right? I had this innate passion, but I knew that, you know, at the time I didn't know this. I thought we all kind of had that. I thought that, you know, we all just loved lacrosse as much as I did. We all wanted to play at the highest level of the game. We all just wanted to be the best version of ourselves. And I think that at a young age, I didn't recognize that that was unique. But I knew that some of the people looking back on it saw that in me, and they were empowering me. And I think that that was kind of the first taste I had of leadership, was older, you know, the coaches, some older people around saying, hey, you know, like, Jules, you care about this. You know, you're a guy that is out there working on his own. You know, you're kind of the leader of the team. And that was my first experience with leadership, but I didn't really understand what that meant as a young player. It was kind of just, oh, I'm the best guy out here because I'm working the hardest. Now, I'll stop right there. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a process of leadership and kind of what it's meant to me, some of the people that have impacted my life, and what I think leadership is for me right now. But I want to ask you guys, I don't want this to be all me talking. I want to ask some of you guys, what does leadership mean to you? When you hear the word leadership, you can raise your hand. I'll call on you. What does it mean to you? Yep. Doing things that are hard when you don't want to do them. Excellent. Yep. Communication. I think that's the most important thing. What else? Reliability. I love that. I think that there's some things that are innate in leaders that they do that all of us can do. I think that there's other things that the leaders I've had experiences with that have been the best kind of go above and beyond that they do. One thing I think all of us can do without having necessarily to be considered a leader, quote unquote, or a captain in a leadership role, is to lead by example. And when I say lead by example, I mean you take care of yourself first, right? And when I think of reliability, that's what I think of. And I think of myself, that was something that I was always doing from a young age, right? I was taking care of myself. I was making sure that I was prepared for practice, that I was doing the extra work, that I was prepared on game day, that I was locked in mentally. And I felt in doing that, that people started to look to me, right? And they started to look at, hey, Jules is doing that, maybe I could do that a little bit. That was, when I was younger, something I was just inherently doing. I think that's kind of the bare minimum now in terms of leadership, but also for you guys as young men, and you kind of continue to grow up, not just as lacrosse players, but for your community. You have to take care of yourself first so that you could take care of others, right? It's really difficult to be a leader and do some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about here in leadership if you're not leading by example, because if you don't handle what you have to handle, you can't expect other people to do it, and you really can't take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself first. Again, as a young player, I had passion, and I was taking care of myself. Naturally, people saw that. They were trying to instill that leadership, some of those leadership qualities I'll talk about right now, in me after that. But I thought I could kind of rely on that. Take care of myself, right? Be reliable, lead by example. That's enough for me to be a great leader. As I've gotten older, I realized that there's other things I need to do, right? When we talk about leading men and being in a group and on a team with not just young players, you guys are kind of maturing right now, but older men, adult males, it's a little bit different. When you lead a family, it's a little bit different. I don't have a family yet, but these things are important because you guys one day will have a family, and you'll start to realize how your lacrosse experience impacts not only you, right, individually, but the people around you, your family, and your community, which I think is a big reason why we're here, right? When we talk about homegrown, this is about community, this is about the young men that you guys are becoming. And lacrosse ends for all of us one day, right? I think, again, been very fortunate, but lacrosse will end for me one day, and I want to make sure I could take some of these qualities, some of these things I learned through my experience and through the experience of great leaders and not great leaders, and continue to bring them into the business that I run, into the family that I'll have one day, and into the community that I'll be a part of. So for me, some things I realized about leadership as a young player, right? Others are looking to be led, right? Others are looking to be led. I bet all of you at some point or another can think back to an experience where you felt like you weren't playing your best, or you weren't having a great week, or something was going on, and you needed guidance, right? You needed some form of guidance, whether it was someone putting their arm around you, whether it was someone just kicking you in the butt, whatever it might have been, you were seeking that guidance, right? It's important to consider, as I get to the rest of this conversation, that everyone is looking to be led in one way or another. Even the guys that you're relying on to be leaders, they're also being led by someone else, right? So keep that in mind. Another thing, especially for you guys right now, it's really hard to lead your friends, right? That was something that I felt like I struggled with at a younger age, was leading my friends, because it's one thing to lead people when you know them, but you don't know them that well. It's another thing to lead them when you know them very well, and there's conversations that you guys can have to where it just gets on a little bit of a deeper level, or they can kind of brush it off a little bit on what you said because they're your friend and they think they don't have to take you seriously. That was something I battled with when I was in high school and I was into college as well. The last thing that I realized was that there isn't one way to lead, right? There isn't one way to lead. And again, referencing back to what I said before, I think the bare minimum that we can do as young men is lead by example. Take care of yourself, be reliable, be someone that everyone can look to in the locker room. And as a person, knowing that, hey, I'm going to get X, Y, or Z from you when you show up. I think that there isn't one way to lead. That's one way that you can do it no matter what. But there's a couple things, right, more specifically that I'm going to talk about, that one of my mentors, one of the best captains I ever had, broke this down for me very well. He's a current offensive coordinator at Michigan University. His name's Scott Bita. I had no clue what it really meant to be a leader. My best leaders that I've had, right, leadership falls into these three categories, right? And Scott Bita, again, broke this down for me very well. There's leading from the front, there's leading from the side, and there's leading from the back. When I talk about leading from the front, right, it's those 3 or 4 times a year, right, those miracle speeches that we're familiar with. You guys know the movie Miracle, right? Those types of speeches, or the opportunities where you have to make a decision as a guy, right? Coach is saying one thing, your teammates are saying another, right? You have to make a decision on how do you manage the team, how do you manage the coach relationship. Very difficult to do, but at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind the relationships that you have on the team and the relationship you have with the coach. Difficult things like that, right? Going against the grain a little bit. That's leading from the front. From the side, relationships, right? Getting to know each other on a deeper level, right? Putting your arm around someone when they need it, right? Or maybe that kick in the butt, right? Getting interpersonal with your teammates. From the back, it's doing the little things, getting the balls, eating last, organizing team rides, organizing the group me chat, right? Things that keep the team going. A lot of the stuff that your coach does that you don't even realize or don't thank him for. It's a lot of the thankless work, right? Leading from the front, leading from the side, leading from the back. I started to think about it back to my experience of where did I fall within those three, right? What was I doing a great job of? What was I not doing such a great job of? How was that impacting the teams that I was on? What if I was leading from one of those three categories a little bit differently? Would our teams have been better? And the truth is, yes. It was natural for me to lead by example. I had a ton of passion. I wanted to be the best version of myself. So I was willing to do the extra work. I was willing to do stuff other guys weren't willing to do. So naturally, I think that I was willing to have conversations with guys about some of that stuff, right? I wanted to connect with my teammates, but I wanted to talk to them about, hey, let's go to the field. Let's get some extra work together. Or, hey, what did you think about the film? Or, hey, You had a tough game last game. What happened, right? How'd you do out there? That was kind of that leading from the side. I always wanted to kind of get to know guys on a deeper level. That came natural to me, right? And I think that built really strong bonds, especially when I think back to the lines that I played on with guys, like the attack lines. Every attack line I've ever played on has been the best, no matter what, right? Top 3, either in the state or in the country or in the pro league, because I felt like I could build those relationships with guys. Leading from the back, something that I could do, but I had to be really intentional about it, right? It's not one of my strong suits. I have to think twice about it, right? I have to go above and beyond. I was willing to do it, something I wasn't natural at, but was willing to do it. I think that's something as I got older, I started to take on. Where I felt I was lacking the most was leading from the front. And when I say leading from the front, again, it's having the ability to get up in front of your teammates, go against the grain, right? Inspire. I think that's where I was lacking my leadership qualities the most. And when I think about these 3 groups, right? So if you think about this, leading from the front takes courage, it's difficult to do, right? Where do you find that courage? Where do you find that confidence, right? In anything, where do you get confidence from? Where do you get, you're playing in a game, the courage to take that shot? Where does it come from? Practice? Yeah, it takes practice, right? It takes building up something in you that makes you feel comfortable enough that you could step over the line and do it. To me, that leading from the back, if you're a guy that can lead from the back, you can lead from the front, right? Because it's not something that's forced. You're doing the little things in the program. You're doing the things that other guys are looking and they're seeing. You're putting in the work. So then when you step up and you cross that line, even though you might have that fear, right? Again, guys want to be led, right? Someone's got to do it. Right? But in the past, for me, the best teams that I've been on have had that, and the worst teams that I've been on have had no one willing to step up to the front because they didn't have guys that were doing the work and leading from behind, right? So they go hand in hand. For me, I think about my experience, the great leaders that I've had, the leaders that have not been so great, right? And I think about how can I continue to push myself as a leader and be someone in my community and someone on the teams that I'm on that can make an impact, because at the end of the day, we want to be led, right? And that's what it's going to take to win, right? So my challenge is to you guys is think about where you fall as a leader right now, right? Are you a guy that leads from the back? Do you do the small things in the program already, right? Or are you a guy that leads from the side? Are you a guy that, builds relationships, goes above and beyond, sends that message to the underclassmen, invites him out, right, to go grab a slice of pizza, or invites him to go shoot with you, or whatever that might be? Are you a guy that can lead from the front, but isn't willing to do that other stuff? And I want you to think about, if you're that guy right now, how that might be viewed by guys in your team, right? Because it's kind of hollow leadership, right? Think about that. Think about the guys, if you've had in your career, ones that are willing to get up there pre-game, give that speech, but you never really felt like it resonated to you, right? Because there was no depth to it, because there was nothing to back it up, right? It was kind of all words. Leadership is actions. That's why I think breaking it down into those 3 categories, it meant so much to me, because I could think about the actions I could take in those 3 categories to give value to the type of leadership that I was giving, right? And my challenge to you guys, right, is to have that courage, right? But it's going to be uncomfortable, but all of us need it, right? All of us need that leadership. Best quote I've been left with by Scott Bita, right? Lead from the back so it feels natural to lead from the front. And again, for me, in talking to you guys about this and leadership, I think there's so many different things that people could say about leadership. The most important thing is how can you take one thing from this conversation and apply it to yourselves, right? How can you be actionable about leadership? Again, think about the type of leader that you are right now in one of those 3 categories. Think about what that means to you and the team that you're on right now. And can you just get a little bit better in one of those 3? Can you get a little bit more courageous? Can you be a guy that goes above and beyond and maybe sends that message, right? Or starts to do the stuff in the locker room when no one's watching? Or when it's needed most, right? Gets up there and takes that step in front of the team, knowing you've done the other things to give yourself that confidence and give your team in that moment what they need, that message, whatever it might be, right? Because if those words have value because you've done the other stuff, right? Those are the most special teams that I've been on, right? When all that kind of comes together, we're all doing the little stuff, right? We're all kind of building those relationships. And then when it's needed most, we come together and we buy into whatever that message is from that leader, right? That's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you giving me the time, and hopefully there's some actionable things in that conversation that you could take back, to your teams. And happy to take any questions outside of that.